we've identified an area where this branch is overlapping with this other branch. And what I've looked at is which branch I want to keep. Historically, there was two other branches that came off here. And if we still had these, I might consider just eliminating this branch. But whenever we're making a cut, we always want to reduce back to where there is a lateral branch so that we're not making a cut in the middle of any particular branch. We always want to take it back down to where you have a lateral branch. Down to where you have a lateral branch. I could cut this down to where we have a lateral branch. And the idea being is we always want to have leaves to continue the flow of oxygen and nutrients, photosynthesis, nutrient transport, water, transpiration. And if we eliminate all of the branches from a single stem, the tree is going to go into stress mode and send out a bunch of new shoots. And it's better for the overall health of the tree to reduce back to a lateral branch. So, again, I've got these two overlapping branches. If I had a branch here, I might consider just removing this guy, and then we would be clear. But since we don't have any branches here, I'm looking at my two options. I could basically leave this branch, or I could leave this branch. So, I'm looking up at the tree. If I were to leave this branch, it's going to occupy... Let me just get these out of your way real quick so you get a better view. If I were to leave this branch, it's going to occupy a very similar plane as this branch. We already have this going on for the tree. If I remove this branch and leave this branch, I'm leaving this branch that has much more open access to spread the growth of the tree, as well as balance some of the rest of the growth of the tree. So we have a lot of the canopy that's going that way. So by having this branch and leaving this branch, we're acting as a bit of a counterbalance for the rest of the tree. So I'm going to choose to remove this branch. And before I remove the whole thing, I wanted to go back to that concept of taper and how we select for taper. So I was talking about going from a larger diameter to a smaller diameter in a shorter distance. And the way that I would achieve that is by reducing back to a lateral branch. So I can do that here. There's a perfect example. If I come in and cut this branch, what I've done, basically, is I've reduced the weight from this branch back to a lateral branch. So I've got taper of this smaller branch that goes from small to large in a short distance, and we don't have nearly as much weight. So this branch is a heck of a lot stronger now that we've reduced that. Unfortunately, the weight that we took off was not enough to lift this and prevent this rubbing. So I'm still going to have to remove the whole branch, but I wanted to demonstrate a little bit of what I was talking about with creating taper and how we choose to create stronger branching. So when you're making cuts, specifically with a handsaw, or a chainsaw, or a pole saw for that matter, any saw, there's a 3-cut rule. And the idea, the concept behind the 3-cut rule is that if I just came in and started making a cut from the top, I'll show you. Eventually, this is going to peel, and we get this nasty peel wound, right? We've got this whole peel wound. So what we want to do is, you can imagine, if I could glue this back on, imagine the branch is still there. So if I want my final peel, or if I want my final cut to be right here, I'm gonna take a 3-step process in my cut. I'm first gonna look at see how where the branch, the gravity of the branch, or how the branch is leaning. So I know that the weight of the branch is coming off this way. So I'm going to make what's called an undercut. So this is under. And then I'm going to make my overcut. And I'm going to match to where I made my undercut with my overcut. And that will break off and take the weight of the branch. And then I can come in and make one single clean final cut. What I have here is a much cleaner finished cut. And what that's going to do for the tree is it's going to allow this to be totally sealed off from the rest of the tree. Now, because we don't have any branches here, we're going to come in and eliminate this whole thing, but I wanted to just instill the importance of making 3 cuts so that you're not creating any of these nasty peels that would ultimately allow pests or disease into the main trunk. So now that I've got my final branch here, I want to take it back to, again, a lateral branch. So here we go. I'm going to do my 3-cut rule for you guys. So I've got my undercut, my overcut, gone, and now I can do my final cut. Where you make your final cut is important. You want to leave a little bit of what's called the branch collar, because the tree will seal that off and create basically a barrier so that no oxygen can get into the main stem. You never want to cut too close to the main stem, because then you will leave that oxygen exchange and allow for fungus or disease or pests to get into the main stem of the trunk. So we want to cut just outside of the branch collar. So with the curved saw, you kind of want to find where your best angle of approach is. I wouldn't want to come in here, because I'll probably come in and make a cut on this branch by accident. So I'm going to come here, and whenever you're making a cut, you really want to be cognizant of where your other hand is and your fingers are, because these things are sharp and will cut you significantly. I know from experience. So again, I'm looking to cut just outside of the branch collar and really not get too far into the main trunk, so that this can be sealed off properly. It takes a little while to get used to this, but this is just a pullback saw, so all of the action is in the pullback. And again, Silky makes an incredible product, so it's a really nice clean cut. So now, looking at this tree, this won't have any more rubbing going on, so it'll be able to seal off that area so that this trunk is not at risk of disease or pest. One of the things that I might consider doing is taking a little weight out of the end of this, because this is kind of getting into that concept of single diameter extending for a pretty long distance with a lot of canopy weight. So what I might consider is eliminating branches at the top.